Hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. So good to see you. My name is Chef Alex. I've been cooking here with Homemade for just about a couple months. Super excited here to be back with you. And today I'm here joined by Chef Meg, who will be here moderating.
Hey, yeah, it is a very typical Seattle day. Like the sun was out, but it was still raining.
Very bipolar weather, as always. So if you have any questions, Chef Meg is here for you. I'm here to answer any questions directly in the chat. Feel free to drop them there. And we're also joined here by some amazing friends from the Fulton Fish Market. Fulton Fish Market is the oldest fish market in the country, 200 years old. And what's cool about it is that you can order directly to your home online. They've got an amazing selection of everything from, for example, what they sent us today. Salmon, they have roe, oysters, even some of the accompaniments to go with those things as well. So they're really here to equip you for the holidays to host and impress. And not only that, they're here to make things easy with some of the complicated parts of hosting, especially with things like portioning. Figuring out, how do I actually figure out how to cook for a crowd of 20 people? I know I'm kind of in that boat. I've got a lot of people here asking me, hey, what are you cooking for the holidays? They're around the corner. Does anyone else have family who's asking them, they still don't know, haven't set their menu? That's definitely me. I'm in that boat, so can take all the help I can get from people like Fulton Fish Market, and we're really excited here to cook with their products. And we're also excited to announce that they're offering a special deal specifically for homemakers. So you can take 50% off your first order if you go to their website, fultonfishmarket.com, and they /homemade, and then you can use that 50% off, and also free delivery off your $125 order. So really,
it's $50 off.
I'm sorry, $50. Thank you. Good correction there. That's why we have people here to catch us. Thank you. We're doing live TV here. But I'm really excited to go ahead and cook this amazing spread. I think that a lot of us like showing up with sides and impressing folks at a holiday party, but it can be challenging to do. And I think one way to do that is to just think about the quality of the ingredients and use this as an excuse to be a little decadent. What better chance to do that than use high quality seafood? And so we're gonna start it off with some poached shrimp. And we have this going here with a collection here of ingredients. We have 6 cups of water. We've got some dry vermouth. We've got some lemon wedges, some bay leaves, and some peppercorns. And so we've had this going here for just about 5 minutes or so. We're gonna turn it up just a little bit. We wanna really get this to a simmer. And here we have some beautiful, beautiful prawns here from Fulton Fish Market, and they came deveined, which is really, really nice. So much work doing that. And so all we had to do was deshell them.
I have a question for you from the chat. Sorry to interrupt. But how would you describe the difference between poaching and just boiling something?
Yeah, poaching, we're gonna go at a lower temperature. And so we're definitely getting it to the temperature where it's gonna become cooked, but at a boil, it's gonna overcook. And especially with something like shrimp, with basically the muscle fibers of the shrimp itself, it's gonna get overcooked if we boil it at a high temperature. And so poaching is gonna allow it to kind of stay nice and soft, maintain that really just soft texture as we bite into it, and also absorb some of the flavors, whereas if we're boiling it, you're not gonna get that.
That's when you get like rubbery, tough shrimp.
Rubbery, tough shrimp, nobody wants that. And this is now just simmering. It's starting to boil. It's not quite too boiling, but it's just kind of getting to that point. And we're gonna start to just drop the shrimp in now and get those going for just about 3 to 5 minutes. We're gonna give it a good shake so we make sure it kind of cooks evenly. We don't want just a pile of shrimp at the top not cooking. Gonna continue giving this some heat, and then we're gonna go into making this cocktail sauce. So here we've got the dry vermouth. Dry is definitely what we want versus sweet. And we have some gin. We've also got some ketchup and some tomato puree, some Worcester sauce, and a little bit of hot sauce. The hot sauce is optional. So we've got that going with the tomato, vermouth, the gin, the hot sauce, and we're gonna mix that. Here we have some grated ginger. We have just about a teaspoon there. And we're gonna make sure that we get that off the heat pretty quickly because we don't want it to overcook. Again, get that rubbery texture. And so this is just kind of at a simmer now. I turned it down. We don't want it to boil, but you can really smell a lot from the citrus. The citrus is doing a lot of the talking with these smells. We're gonna get off the heat in just a minute here. We're almost at 3 minutes, going on 4 minutes now for cooking. And I have a colander there ready in the sink. And I wanna show you the consistency of this shrimp just to show you that it's not overcooked and kind of what we're going for with poached shrimp. You can see here, if you pick it up by the tail, it's still kind of got a fair amount of if I squeeze it, I can still get a fair amount of squeeze and what we call give. And so there's not an insane amount of resistance if I squeeze, so that's good. And then we're gonna get going now on these oysters. And so these are some amazing East Coast oysters, and what's nice is that Fulton Fish Market can do the selection for you. It can be a little bit overwhelming if you don't know oysters, figuring out even which variety or what determines the quality of a good oyster. Like, for example, we want something that has like a pretty deep shell, basically, so that we can get a fair amount of brine. If we have too shallow of a shell, there's not gonna be much brine. We also can tell that these are nice, healthy, good oysters by kind of hitting them together. They really don't sound empty. They sound full, and I can feel that there's quite a bit in there. And I want to show you some tips on shucking here. The most important thing is safety, and we really don't want to hurt ourselves. And so we want to make sure that we'll take a towel and we'll kind of fold it basically in half and then half again. So we'll have this the long ways. And this is basically what's going to protect our hand. So we're going to use this to stabilize the oyster on the bottom, and then we're gonna have about half of it, the edge, basically exposed. We're gonna fold this over so that we're not pointing the blade directly at our hands, and we're going to point the blade at about a 45-degree angle, and you can kind of feel in between the groove of these. You can kind of feel where it doesn't go any further. Once you get to that point, you're gonna continue pushing down, but you're also gonna wiggle from back and forth. You're going to move the shucker basically from side to side as you're pushing down at a 45-degree angle. So I'm pushing down, and then you can hear and feel once I've got it cracked open, at which point I feel like the easiest thing is to pick it up and just continue sliding along the top, right? And then at this point, what we need to do is just to remove basically from the bottom stem and flip it if you can. And that's the part, it depends on the oyster. It's not always easy to do and make them look pretty, so you don't have to do that. That's optional. But we really want to make sure that we don't lose too much of that brine. That amazing brine is what makes oysters taste so good, and the reason for that is because they process and drink an insane amount of seawater. It's gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons, and so they literally are doing just that. They're brining themselves and giving them an amazing umami flavor that is going to be kind of like that salty flavor of the ocean in some ways, but there's a lot more than that too. Here we have, this is basically just the tray that we're gonna put in, and we have some ice cream salt laid down. This is the same tray that we're gonna put down and broil. We wanna make sure that we're not spilling the brine, and so we're basically, like, if we need to, move the salt around to kind of position the oysters so that the brine is still standing there, because again, that's gonna help flavor the dish. And then, I figure I should go ahead and try one, huh? Let's see how they taste. They look beautiful. Salud.
Salud.
That tastes like the ocean in the best way. That is amazing. And so we've got a dozen oysters here, shucked, and then we're gonna go with a pretty classic Caesar salad mix of ingredients here. What's cool about this is that I was talking about incorporating umami flavors and seafood from many angles. I feel like we're doing that with this dish for sure. And so we're mixing all of the ingredients here, which are some chopped spinach here. We've got some finely chopped anchovy. We have some chopped capers. We've got some lemon juice. We've got some red pepper flakes, about a 1/4 teaspoon. Optional, if you don't like spice, you could totally do without those. Here we have some heavy cream, 2 tablespoons. Here we have some grated Parmesan. We're gonna kind of give that a good mix till it's incorporated with the Dijon there. And then we're gonna go ahead and top. What's nice about this one is that it's pretty quick. I had to chop up these ingredients, which yeah, took a few minutes, but by the time you have these shucked, it's really just popping them in the broiler for a few minutes and then we're ready to eat. And so as I'm making this Caesar salad topping here, which will go on top of each oyster, we're gonna then dive into the breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs here, panko. Here we have an organic blend. There are gluten-free alternatives that I think do a good job. And so you could absolutely swap out for one of those if you wanted to. And we're gonna go ahead and mix here the panko that has some seasoning. We've got some salt and pepper in there. We've got some minced garlic, about a teaspoon. We've got some lemon zest, about 1/2 teaspoon here. We have some Parmesan, because who doesn't love cheese? And I think this is one of those things that's gonna add to that umami flavor too. Parmesan also has a little bit of that as well. We're gonna mix, make sure it's well incorporated, especially with that lemon zest. We really wanna make sure that's well incorporated into everything. And then we're gonna go ahead and add a little topping of the Caesar salad mix on each. We're just gonna kind of do basically a little dollop. And so it's about like less than half. It looks like between 1/2 and a teaspoon. Dollop. Oh man, I am getting hungry looking at this. And so we're gonna go ahead and broil this. And again, we're just broiling this on high for about 3 to 5 minutes, but first we're gonna get our breadcrumbs on. We're gonna be pretty liberal. And this is really gonna crisp up very, very quickly. And so we're gonna get a couple things from this. We are gonna get some flavor from the citrus and the seasoning as well, but we're also really gonna get a lot of texture. And it's officially time to broil. Pop this in. Want to do this on the upper rack so you get as much radiant heat from the top as possible. And we're going to broil that for just about 3 minutes to start. That's great. And then we're going to dive into the salmon spread here. Looks like my prawns, here we have the shrimp here, are just cooled enough now to put into the fridge. Just want to kind of make them a little bit more chilled. And now we are diving into the salmon spread. And so we have this beautiful smoked salmon here from Fulton, which I would describe as basically like a lock style. If we're talking about bagels, it's definitely like the kind that you would be familiar, the cold smoked, seeing on a bagel. It's got a really nice fat content. You can see that there's almost kind of like this marbling in between each layer. And I'm gonna basically just kind of tear this up. I was initially thinking I might have to cut it, and it's so delicate that I'm really just gonna kind of break this into pieces here. I can just tear it apart so easily. It's just so delicate and fatty and juicy. And it is just now time to take those oysters out. Let's check them out.
So what are you looking for?
We are looking for browning of the breadcrumbs. So you'll see that those breadcrumbs there's a couple there that are very, very toasty, but I think we pulled them out just in time. And so again, that's why it's always good to check things just 1 minute before the time, especially when you're broiling. Broilers cook at different temperatures, so always be on the conservative side and check things about midway through, or at least two-thirds of the way through. I was being cavalier, but hey, these still looks pretty delicious. Pretty dang nice and golden brown. In the meantime, what we can do is we can get going with this salmon spread. And so we have here some cream cheese, and it's important to kind of let it soften up. So you could leave it out, that's one way, but probably the safest way to do it is to just heat it up in the microwave real quick for not more than about 15 seconds or so. Mixing this into a bigger bowl. And now mixing in the mayo and the sour cream. All right. Got a little bit of lemon juice too. We're gonna add some of that as well. About a teaspoon or so. Then we're gonna kind of incorporate all of this. A mixer would work well. Spatula would also work well. Here we have some of the Worcester sauce, hot sauce. Gonna keep mixing. And now we're just about there. Time to add the smoked salmon and the dill. I've got about 2 tablespoons of dill. Boom, boom, boom. Sometimes you gotta give things a little slap to get those last little remainder of herbs, I feel like. No waste. And we're gonna throw it in the salmon. Yum. And you can see the ratio of what we're working with here. It's very, very high of salmon to spread. So if you take a dip in here, you're gonna get quite a bit of salmon on any given bite, which is what we want. That's how you create happy guests, right? And then as we are just finishing this up, what we can do is we can finish the oysters with a little bit of fresh topping. Here we have some fresh parsley. This is partly for color, and partly it's just gonna give it a little bit of that bright pop that I was talking about, layering of flavors. So we're taking out just the shrimp here. We're leaving the other ingredients. And then we're gonna cover them in the cocktail sauce, and then we're gonna serve with some of the lemon wedges just on the side for people to grab themselves. And then here we have the cocktail sauce. Kind of give it a good mix, good toss. Make sure everything is covered. Then we're gonna serve with some lemon wedges here. We can serve them on the side. We could serve them in the center in a ramekin as well if you want it to be less messy. There's a number of ways to think about creative plating. This is the time for you to be creative as you're plating and think about the presentation. And then the other component of the salmon spread here were these saltine crackers. And we made like a steak seasoning, which had some garlic, some pepper, some paprika, and then some melted butter. So we coated these saltines with all of that. We baked it for about 10, 15 minutes at 300 degrees. And here I'm serving the salmon. Here we are. Beautiful. And I would even top this with a little bit of, you could do some fresh chives, some fresh dill as well, give it a little bit of additional color. And then here we have this amazing looking caviar with a very classic kind of juxtaposition of fancy and casual. We have the potatoes chips with creme fraiche and some caviar here from our friends at Fulton Fish Market. Really, really excited to dig in and try this. Looks amazing.
Yeah, you've got several things to work through. So.
Yeah, right? Let's start with one of these oysters here. Let's see how perfectly cooked they are. The moment of truth. The citrus really combined with the brine of the oyster itself and the cheese to give it a lot of that umami pop. Delicious. Diving into these cocktail shrimp here. We got to give it a lemon squeeze. Not complete without that. Very nice. I taste the vermouth. The ginger is another unique component that sets it apart from many that I've had in the past. Very nice.
Oh yeah, a couple olives on the plate could send the idea for viewers, or not viewers, but your guests.
Yes.
Like a little olive on a toothpick, like dirty martini.
Olives would do great, absolutely. Even slices, you could do a couple little half pieces and arrange them in a pattern as well. That would really do great things. So I encourage you to get creative with your plating and really think about how you could even the positioning of the plates of all these, just with the colors, the reds, the greens. They really just do a lot to play with each other, and they kind of dance on the plate. And then here we have the smoked salmon spread. Very nice. That is good fresh salmon. Last but not least, the most decadent bite. I saved the most decadent bite for last. The creme fraiche, potato chips, and some caviar. Look at that. It just, the beauty of these little pearls here, just the way they shine, something special. Salud, everybody. Wow. It is a good evening, y'all. So happy to be here. So happy to cook with all of you. Thanks so much to our friends from the Fulton Fish Market for being here. Just want to remind you that you can get $50 off using code HOMEMADE. And there's also free shipping off of an order over $125 off through Fulton Fish Market. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to cooking with you. Our next lesson will be with me tomorrow as well. We're going to do a stuffed puff pastry, pumpkin puff pastry with lamb. Enjoy.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.